Uh, you know this?
Did you want it to be vertical like this?
Yeah. I'm sorry. We're live, actually. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Oops.
Yeah. All right. So, sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties there. Sorry about that. This is John Ferretti and Eric Bassier. Eric Bassier is an ATU Local 308 Executive Board member in the Chicago CTA. I'm a former Executive Board member, TW Local 100, and one of the founders of the Local Energy Fight Back Coalition. And we're now broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Unfortunately, Twitter decided now you need a premium account to go live. So they're not allowing us to go live anymore. So much for that. Because I'm not paying Elon Musk a fucking dime. Anyway, as you know, we've been doing this podcast now for a while now. It's episode 11. We've been doing it on a weekly basis. We were normally doing it on Tuesday afternoons, but now Eric's work schedule has changed, so we're going to be doing it now on Friday nights at 7:30. Right now, that works. We'll let you know if that changes. But you know, this podcast is a podcast of rank and file transit workers talking about wider political issues, also talking about our culture and the political atmosphere in this country and how it relates to our unions. And if you had talked to us a couple of years ago, it would have been a no-brainer that people would be talking about police officers' cold-blooded murder of an unarmed African-American woman who called them for help. It would be a no-doubter that the first Black female presidential candidate would have had to make a statement about it, would have had to show outrage at the fact that this woman was gunned down in her own house, unarmed, for no other reason than the police officer who has been repeatedly fired from police departments keeps being given a gun to go in and act out his manhood fantasies on defenseless, unarmed citizens, and thinks it's his job to decide whose lives are worthy of continuing and whose are not. We're going to show a video. Now, we know the video is disturbing, but we have to look at these things. And part of the problem with the culture and the political atmosphere in this country, and part of what paves the path of the rebirth of Trump and MAGA and the rise of fascism, is that we've become desensitized to these issues. We've become callous and tapped into the worst angels of our nature with constant victim blaming, constantly repeating the propaganda that's portrayed in the mass media to terrorize us into accepting going back to what they consider normal. And what they consider normal is something we can never normalize. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to watch a video from the Young Turks that talks about Sonia Massey's family and how they were, what information they were given, but also is going to show the video of the police and their interaction with Sonia Massey. Sonia Massey had mental health problems. She had schizophrenia and was taking drugs for that, but that had nothing to do with the encounter with the police, and they knew what her issues were. And yet you decide whether what they did was de-escalating the situation or whether it was throwing gasoline on the fire. So let me just share my screen, and we'll play that video. Oh. Okay.
Here, grab your ID for me.
Okay.
Your ID. One task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your paperwork.
I don't know where my ID is.
You have that stack right there, maybe?
He's an Illinois State Police
One
officer.
second.
Check on her.
Let me get this.
We don't need a fire while we're here.
All right. Let me see.
Well, they told her to take the pot off the stove.
Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
Rebuke you in the name
You
of
better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Jesus. Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the fuck. Drop the
18 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the fuck. Bring EMS now. We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female. 1078.
36-year-old Sonia Massey was shot and killed by Illinois Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson on July 6th inside her home after she called the police for help over what she believed may have been an intruder near her house. Now, her daughter confirmed later that her mother was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic, and their interactions began on her front porch.
What do you need help with?
Nothing. I just wanted to see if I could help me.
What do you want help with?
What?
What do you want help with?
I heard somebody outside.
Yeah, we checked your house. We checked your backyard. I walked all the way through all these backyards. We checked your front yard.
We didn't see nobody.
Yeah,
So.
nobody's out here.
You didn't see anybody?
No.
Nope.
Oh,
Checked the whole area.
okay.
What took you so long to answer the door?
Oh, I was trying to put on some clothes, sir. I'm sorry. I was trying to get.
I got you. All right. Is there anything else we can do for you?
Huh?
Is there anything else I can do for you?
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
You doing all right mentally?
Yes.
Sure.
My medicine and stuff.
All right.
They coming back. I know they're already here.
What is your last name? Shouldn't have to think about your last name. You're not in trouble. I just need to touch.
Massey.
Huh?
Massey.
So she called the police. They seemed annoyed by her inability to answer their questions as quickly and seamlessly as they wanted. So the negative energy was already very apparent. So when the guys with the guns, body armor, batons, tasers, and utility belt told her to take hot water off of the stove, only to suddenly decide to draw their weapons over her doing what they asked her to do, she, as a human, got scared. So in what I keep hearing as a Christian nation, Officer Grayson got really angry over her rebuking his fear of her in Jesus' name. Why does the name of Jesus scare this guy?
Prosecutors say Grayson's partner tried to give the 36-year-old first aid, even though Grayson discouraged him.
I'm gonna go get my kit.
No, you're done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot.
By the way, he shot her in the face, as he promised, right before telling his partner there's no need in trying to get his medical kit to save her. He didn't care about her life. He was only concerned with keeping his gun trained on the person he just said is done. And when more officers arrived, they asked the most obvious question. So where's this life-threatening gun that she must have pulled on you?
Where's the gun?
No, she had boiling water and came at me with boiling water.
You shot her?
Yeah. She said she was going to rebuke me in the name of Jesus and came at me with boiling water. That's what all this is. I was standing right here.
All right.
And that's where she's landed.
People that flatly claim that police are always justified in murderous situations like this may not like to pay attention to the fact that this guy was apparently afraid of hot water that he told Sonia to grab, and they don't probably care to recognize that the police blatantly lied to her family about killing her. What they never ask is, why did they lie?
Well, they told me, well, I got a call from the hospital, actually. I never got a call from the police. But they told me that my mom, I got shot in the eye, and it came out her neck. And they didn't tell me who. They were just saying somebody. They never would tell me who. They just kept on saying someone shot her. They would never tell me who shot my mom, though. So, and I think I was the first person to find it out, too. I had to go tell my grandma myself. That's all I can say.
And you kept asking who?
Yeah, they wouldn't tell me at all.
I want to say again, I'm calling for the sheriff's resignation because I think it's a culture to treat this family this bad, to call these lies. If it were not for that camera footage, we as a people, they would have lied and they'd have lied their way right out of this. So he needs to resign. So no matter who of his emissaries try to come and talk to me, I'm not going to talk to anybody unless my attorney's with me. Because you will never twist anything I said. I'm very clear and I'm very eloquent. He needs to resign.
Have we discovered yet why people were screaming Black Lives Matter only a few years ago? Because when a Black woman was shot and killed by a police officer that vowed to kill her over her evoking the name of Jesus in his presence while holding a pot of water that he told her to grab, the police and the hospital lied to her family about who murdered her. They were led to believe an intruder from the neighborhood had killed her until they read about it on the internet somewhere, as if her life didn't matter. And you ready for more? The now arrested cop, Sean Patrick Grayson, was working at his 6th or 7th department in just under 4 years. And the reasons for his departures were terminated for cause, resigned 3 times, and a couple of other times just undisclosed. So if you're terminated from a job at a restaurant for violating safety rules and go on to resign from 3 other food service places and sent away for another 2 for undisclosed reasons, I think general society and restaurants from McDonald's to Lowry's Steakhouse would feel better about you never working anywhere near a kitchen again.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right here. We also, there's also another part to this that we have to go into, and that's what this takes place in the backdrop of. And that is the overall culture nationally and the normalization of Trump and MAGA and what they have to say about all this. So I'm going to play a short clip of a video that goes into what Trump has had to say about this.
It's not up.
What's that?
We don't hear it. We don't see it.
All right. Hold on a second. Let me pause it.
Yep.
Let me get out of here. All right, let me try to reshare it. Okay. All right, I'm back to the screen. Let me try to share the screen again. I don't know why I didn't do why when I changed the video, it all of a sudden went. It didn't continue playing. Can you see it now?
Feeds off of the expectation of brutality, but only for certain people that were deemed not important.
Eric, can you see it
Because
now?
when law enforcement targets
This is the same
people for
video.
crimes that they do
No,
commit,
the same video that
it was
wasn't
nothing
that you
to
weren't
do with
hearing.
law and order all of a sudden. In fact, one of them consistently talks about empowering lawless cops with immunity to assault and kill whoever they deem useless.
We're going to give our police their power back, and we're going to give them immunity from prosecution. So they're not prosecuted for doing their job. The local police are great. They're just not allowed to do their job. They're afraid of losing their pension. They're afraid of losing their wife or husband. They're going to lose their house. They're losing everything. And one of the things I'm doing is giving local police immunity from prosecution. They get prosecuted. We're going to give back.
Okay, so this is the backdrop in which the contempt and disregard for human life takes place in, and the normalization of the idea that you can just execute and shoot somebody in the face in their own home who's unarmed, who pose no threat to you, who you could have de-escalated the situation at any point. There was no reason for them to go in her house. You seen them outside. She told them, that she thought that somebody was trying to intrude or trying to break in. They looked around the house. There was no one there. So they should have kept it on moving. There was no reason for them to go in that house at all. There was certainly no reason for them to draw their weapon. But this is the irrational kind of lunacy that we're being given as this is how normal people react. We even have people in the comments here talking about go Trump. Trump is the truth. I mean, these are our coworkers, and this has been normalized that it's just okay. It's okay to be an antisocial, violent, white supremacist shithead and just act out your revenge fantasies on anybody you feel deserves it. Anybody you feel you want to deny their humanity. And the fact that it's so silent in this country from our unions and from institutions that are supposed to represent the working class tells you everything you need to know about why this shit is normalized. And, we just seen the Republican National Convention last week, and you've seen all the clowns get out of the clown car in that show. And, we're going to talk about later that the Republicans just can't help themselves. They just can't help letting all the sexism, all of the racism, all of the antisocial, creepy fucking behavior that personifies them from busting out all over the seams. And all it took was a black female to be the presidential candidate they were running against, and they just lost their shit. But unfortunately, we have to kind of unpack, how the fuck did we get here? How is it less than 3 years after George Floyd, one of the most massive, spontaneous mobilizations of civil rights demonstrations all across the world, and we don't hear a peep of struggle right now about, or even that much concern, or even an idea that we should have any kind of feelings at all about the fact that this woman's life was taken away from her. This woman was a family member. Her life mattered, and it was wiped out in an instant by an officer's decision who should have never had a gun. He should have never been in that position after he's repeatedly been removed from that position. God knows what he must have done. Do you know what it takes? I mean, don't believe Donald Trump that officers are having their lives ruined and that they're losing their families and they're losing their pensions. There's only a handful of cases. The case in Minneapolis with the guy who actually was most responsible for George Floyd's death is about one of the handful in hundreds of thousands of cases, tens of thousands at least, not hundreds of thousands of cases of police brutality on every. It's like another day with a Y in this country is what it is. That's how often it happens.
And listening to the way they were talking to her when they were outside and inside, you could tell the contempt that they had for her, for her dignity. She was obviously, you could just listening to her talk, the way she's dressed, she's got some issues going on. And you don't talk to people that way at all. When they're calling you for help, it was almost like, they were extremely bothered, and this is our chance to pick on somebody. And they did it so effortlessly. It shows how they do this normally.
Yeah.
But it's just exposed. So imagine what we're not getting on cameras. Imagine what we're not getting released. How this got released is a miracle.
Yeah. Well, how many times they shut their cameras off?
They cover this stuff up all the time.
Yeah, how many times do they shut the camera off and get away with it? And it doesn't matter what they do. There's always an excuse. There's always an excuse. It's amazing when a doctor or a surgeon is tasked with saving somebody's life in a life-saving situation. They don't get to say, oh, well, I felt threatened by the patient, so I killed them. Do they get to say that? I mean, there's nobody else in public service who gets to say, you can't fire me even if my decisions lead to somebody's death. I have no responsibility at all. And Trump is openly saying if he's reelected that he's going to give every police officer the immunity. What would that mean? What would that mean for all of us? What would that mean for trade unions that go on strike when they got to deal with the cops? What would it mean for our coworkers who, when they take their uniform off, are profiled because of the color of their skin, because of the communities they live in? I mean, we really have to stop the desensitization and the cluelessness that we all have retreated into, that you're pissed about inflation, so therefore you're going to punch down at somebody who's got literally nothing to do with your struggles and is struggling worse than you are. Like the whole migrant crime crisis. There's a clip by John Oliver this week, which I'll share in the comments on this live stream, that goes into exactly how ridiculous this whole thing is. That we think that there's some kind of migrant crime wave when actually crime is at a 50-year low.
At the latest I heard at work, a coworker brought up, he said, yeah, I heard that they're going to be recruited to be police officers.
Oh my God. That's the next thing?
Yeah, I heard that. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't laugh, but you know, I'm just like, yeah, brother, they doing everything to make you scared. And one of the things I want to say about this, John,
Sure.
is that people need to understand union workers. Our union leadership is silent about this case and generally about police brutality.
Mhm.
And it's because they and their mismanagement friends believe in this kind of treatment for people who cannot be controlled.
True.
So, you know, they're all about write-ups. They're all about follow the rules, follow the rules, follow the rules. And if you don't, well, they're going to get you and you can grieve it, but we're going to have to vote on it. You know, and it's just, it's punishment, punishment, punishment. Okay, we have a problem. Let's see. I think we should punish people. Oh, our trains are decoupling. We need to write some people up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about on the job, we're guilty until proven innocent here too. I mean, it's not supposed to be that way, but it clearly is. And you know, they're the first ones that'll go to the media and try to scapegoat transit workers for any kind of delays. In New York, they make announcements on the fucking PA telling people we're doing the best we can with the staff we have available. Hilarious.
Right.
Who hires
We have
the
a staff
staff?
shortage. A staff
Who hires
shortage.
the staff?
Yeah.
Do we hire ourselves? Is that how that works now? You know.
Yeah,
but,
they do it here too.
so they do the same thing to us, and we don't even see how the gaslighting is exactly the same when it comes to issues like this.
And they got us saying, yeah, people just don't come to work. People don't. I got to keep correcting them, you know? It's like,
Yeah,
yo,
well,
man,
here
people
they-
don't come to be exploited, man.
Here, our own union officers talk about how everybody's on comp. I mean, when you're injured on the job, should you not report the injury? Should I just put a Band-Aid on it and a tourniquet and just keep limping along? Is that how is that how the union thinks?
Yeah, that's what they think, like a boss.
Yeah. So I know there's some stuff going on in Chicago that you want to talk about, Eric. So I'm going to give you the water.
Yeah. You know, they love to punish, right? And they not only do they punish us, John, but they feed us pizza. And the Chicago Transit Authority in 2024 has awarded a local company a catering contract worth $40,000. It's a pizza place. It's a pizza outlet. And not only that, but not only do they love feeding us pizza and sandwiches and giving us little lapel pins about how they appreciate us, but they awarded a $15 million contract to Railhead Corporation to design a new video system on our 5,000 and 3,200 series trains, which already have a fully functional video system with cameras facing us, the workers in the operating position, which are used to write us up. So before that, a couple weeks before that, the president, Mr. 33%, Dorvell Carter, the president of the Chicago Transit Authority, put out a letter thanking all the employees for ratifying our contract extension and accepting a 4% penny raise. So our union leadership sold us this. They said, this is as good as it's going to get, y'all. You better take this money. You crazy if you don't accept this. And then we find that they awarded $15 million of our money that should go to us, to a corporation that is going to set up a brand new video system. This video system, I don't know how it can be better than the last one, except maybe it's X-ray. Maybe it can give a video of the future and predict us violating the rules, predict the crime. Who knows? And thanks to I'm sure their union partners will be very happy about the video because they love video too. And they want to make sure that the union members who they help the CTA fire can't pay their union dues. And that's in the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 241, under the great divine leadership of the anointed one of Christ. That's what he calls himself. Chief Hill.
Was he hanging out with Eric Adams?
They're all alike, brother. New York, Chicago, San Francisco. It's one big orgy of boss worship.
Yeah.
So he is now, especially if he don't like you, he is not going to accept your dues. So if you were fired and you have a grievance, you can't pay dues. He's also voting. He's directing the membership at the local 241 meetings to vote against allowing these members into the membership meetings.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so,
we had a president, Roger Toussaint, who was elected the head of the union, and he was fired by the MTA at the time. He was president of the union, let alone paying his dues. He was receiving union dues as the elected president because the members are supposed to run the union, not the bosses. I mean, this is baby shit. This is the ABCs of trade unionism.
It's insane, man.
Yeah.
And it's normal to us, and we have to stop. We have to educate our coworkers. This is not normal. This is abnormal.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of this and the way in which they the most basic tasks that they're charged with are too great for them to even live up to. We had a bus driver stabbed on a bus not that long ago, earlier this month, and the Brooklyn DA charges him with attempted murder, and the guy who they arrested, they let go because within 6 days they couldn't come up with an indictment for this guy who slashed a bus operator and nearly killed him. This is in the New York Post. I don't normally share the New York Post. I believe it's most adept at wrapping fish, but in any case, here is the story. I just wanted to make sure that people saw it. I know that was also a that's the wrong one. Sorry. Okay, but they actually had the story, and in the story, there's not one quote from our union saying anything that this person who in a fit of rage slashed and attempted to murder one of our bus operators was walked free because a grand jury did not indict him in time. Now, I'm not one of these tough on crime, throw them all in jail. I don't have that perspective. But 6 days they held him and they couldn't get a jury to indict him. I mean, there's a statement about you could indict a ham sandwich. It's not that difficult. And yet your union leadership doesn't live up to its most basic responsibility. Where's the protest at the Brooklyn DA's office? Where is the protest to draw attention to this? It's nowhere to be found. It's like they're missing in action. And, it's like if they were judging your job performance based on this kind of performance, you'd be AWOL. You'd be fired. I mean, this is just basic shit. That there should be some outrage, and there's none. It's just unbelievable. Just like we want everyone to know Sonia Massey's name, say her name. Well, how come people don't know the name of this bus operator? How come it's not public knowledge what he went through? And there's no demand for justice, Yet this is a union that emblazons on the headline of its newspaper that power concedes nothing without a demand, never has, never will. They cosplay it being supporters of Frederick Douglass.
Yeah.
And here they are missing in action when one of our coworkers is nearly killed. And it's far from the first time. And
we have a very similar case on the rail side at the CTA. So one of our coworkers, that cleans the trains at the platforms, she was assaulted by someone who was out of their mind. again, we just dump society's people who have nothing to lose, who have lost everything, including their minds, and made the public transit workers the caretakers. And
Yeah.
so this person assaults her. She calls, she's hurt, so she can't work. And the CTA denies her workman's comp, and she doesn't have a lot of savings. She just finally got a full-time job. She was part-time for years. And then she comes back to work because she has to work. And then she's assaulted again, thrown against the wall. Her back's messed up. She had to come back to work, and they don't want to pay the workman's comp.
That's crazy.
And the union leadership is silent, absolutely silent. It's disgusting.
Yeah. But the other thing though too is that they love these conditions. The bosses, they inspire a lot of these conditions by everything they do to target us and scapegoat us for all the problems in the subway system. But also, the union leaders' default position is to beat up on the homeless, is to hold press conferences with the governor and the mayor and the NYPD to basically concern troll, and virtue signal about how terrible it is. And the only solution is everything's a nail and we need a hammer. And the thing is that they have so effectively counter-messaged against the movement that rose up in response to George Floyd's murder, and basically distorted the narrative to be that we're against public safety. No, when you send psychotic, antisocial, white supremacist scumbags into communities they know nothing about, and you tell them they can do whatever they want, and they can pursue extreme prejudice and straight up murder and get away with it, that's unsafe. That's not social safety. That's creating social anarchy and disorder. There are, and just so you know, like in that same video, the TYT video, they show what happened in Denver when they had a non-police response to people who had mental illnesses and people who had drug and alcohol. And they had a whole team that went out. And guess what? They were staffed by people who actually had some experience in de-escalating these kind of situations and in making sure these people got services. And they had a precipitous decline in the number of deaths, the number of police involved injuries and killings and all of that. And these people got services that they actually needed. And that's the problem, is that our own leaders don't have any solutions for these problems. They don't have the first fucking clue how to solve these problems. I know one thing. If I want to solve a problem that is not a new phenomenon that exists all over the world, I look to the professionals that actually have experience in solving these problems. It's not like these problems don't exist everywhere else in the world, but we're the only society that has, police officers have de facto immunity, and now Trump wants to give them actual immunity for anything they do. And that has nothing to do with trying to keep you safe. It has to do with fear. It has to do with they are his shock troops. They are the people he's going to use to round up immigrants and put them in concentration camps. Okay, they want to weaponize the state to be an army for them, so that everybody is deputized and they don't have to worry about being prosecuted. So all these white supremacist militias can just be, appointed to some federal job and then be able to engage in the same kind of thing that these police officers are. So this is what we're facing. That normalization of Trump's racist, fascistic kind of mindset. It's not just another idea. Their ideas of violence. Their ideas have consequences in terms of your civil rights, your democratic rights, your trade union rights. People got to wake up and got to realize that they're not just another garden variety form of Republican racist and sexist. They're a different breed. They're a whole nother animal. And we've already seen what they've done, and what they're promising to do is much worse.
And
so
if we're not, for those of you that are listening, we're not presenting this as a Trump versus Kamala, Democrats versus Republican. You know, we're telling you, oh, there's some serious issues with either party, but this particular candidate is promoting ideas that lead to genocidal acts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not about Kamala versus Trump. It's about Trump having state power or not having state power could be life and death, not just for immigrants, not just for women who need abortions, not just for gays and lesbians and others who are going to be targeted. For all of us, for the working class, look at what he wants to do to trade union rights. We're talking about,
and look at what he's done.
Yeah, we're talking about the PATCO strike on steroids. He wants to be able to fire whole sections of the federal government. Who are the federal workforce? They're union workers. They're some of the largest percentage of unionized workers in this country. And he wants the ability to say, kneel before Zod. You kiss the ring and you suck up to Trump or you don't have a job. And trade unions have nothing to say about that? Really? I'm going to play some of the thing about GOP leaders losing their minds over Kamala because it's instructive, because they're not just talking about her. Like she's somebody that's triggering them to be themselves, to show who they are. So I'm going to share the screen and show some of that, and then we'll get back to the discussion.
If you care about DEI, why aren't you sounding off right now? You know, they're suddenly not bringing up qualifications when it comes to white guys being chosen based on their race. But when it comes to Kamala, well, Republican Representative Glenn Grothman thinks that she's being chosen by Democrats specifically because of her race.
Or a lot of Democrats feel they have to stick with her because of her ethnic background. And so I'm sure there's some division there on that issue.
It's not because she's the current vice president and the logical successor to the president. No, it's because of her ethnic background. See, Joe Biden, when he actually ran the first time after he was vice president, he won. It's because typically people view the VP as the logical successor to the president. And if they like the president, then they're going to go with the VP. But when it comes to Kamala, she's there because of her ethnic background. Simply put, black presidential candidate, that's DEI. White presidential candidate, not DEI. White vice presidential candidate, not DEI. Now, if you're sensing that there's a bit of a double standard here, you'd be correct. They're calling black politicians DEI because they're fucking racist. And DEI, as of late, is effectively being used in lieu of the N-word. And this was explained perfectly by Representative Maxwell Frost.
They want to call her a DEI president or DEI candidate. She has more experience than Trump and J.D. Vance combined times a million, right? She worked at the state level. She was the attorney general. She's vice president of the United States. She was a senator representing one of the largest states in the entire country. And so these are just racist dog whistles. Whenever you hear DEI, I want you to think about the N-word. I want you to think about racial slurs. That's what they actually mean.
He is exactly right. A non-white person can never be qualified enough for them. Even Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's the most qualified Supreme Court justice to ever be confirmed, she was still being accused of being an affirmative action hire. That was, of course, before they started doing the whole DEI bullshit. But I mean, they trotted out the same tropes and dog whistles against her, and they do this every single time. It doesn't matter how qualified you are. If you're black, if you're a woman, you're just not qualified and can never be qualified enough in their eyes, because that's not what they're looking for. To them, qualified means being white. But they're not just racist, they're also explicitly sexist too. And the right-wing pundits have wasted no time attacking Kamala Harris in both racist and overtly sexist ways.
She's a DEI hire, right? She's a woman She's colored, therefore she's got to be good.
Yeah, and then there's the DEI press secretary telling you that the DEI vice president is the future of the party here. And so the future looks kind of dim for the Democrats here, but this is no shocker either. Kamala Harris, she's the original Haktua girl. That's the way she got where she is. And the party's going downhill if it's in her hands.
That was tough. That was harsh.
Republican women, this is what they think of you. If you are voting for this party, I mean, this is how they view you. If you're a successful woman, it must be because you slept your way to the top. If you're a successful BIPOC person, well, it's only because of DEI. Kamala hasn't even been the candidate for a full week, and they've already unleashed every racist and sexist trope that they could think of because they just can't help themselves. They're not even able to hide it any longer. But I do want to look at a quick...
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. I mean, we could go into, I don't know how much disgusting racist, sexist, and other shit has been dumped on Kamala, and Harris has been in the race for like a week. They even had a picture of Harris's campaign with the H being a woman giving a blowjob to a man, right? So, I mean, the reason why they're so triggered is because they just can't help themselves. They're so motivated by antisocial hatred of people who they want to be closeted and shamed and put in their place, basically. And so they can't help themselves. And in the last week, like, they have no strategy to take on Kamala Harris in any way. Like, they don't want to take on her record. It's all about she is a diversity. DEI is in diversity. I forget what E is. What E stands for. It's I for inclusion, equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So these are these DEI programs. They're corporate speak for we have to cover our ass. That's all they are. It's like when transit shows you videos about safety. They don't give a shit about safety. They're just checking a box, and they have a signature from you that you've been trained on these safety procedures so that later they can hang you for not following them. So corporate America has come up with their own shield to cover their ass, which is DEI, where they give these diversity, equity, inclusion seminars or videos or courses or whatever it is. Does anybody believe that they're not racist anymore? That, you know, Disney's not racist, that these companies are not as just as racist as they were before they started giving these courses? And so they use that, the right wing is latched onto that term as a way to be able to say the N-word without saying the N-word. And it's a way to basically be as thoroughly racist as they want to be and let their freak flag fly without being able to be called out for actually being racist. But the problem is, most normal people in this country, whether they're racist or not, like, you can be paternalistically racist, you can have all sorts of internalized racist ideas, but still not want to see publicly people being treated in a way that's openly racist. And so all those normie voters, all those independents, all those women that all the black people that the Republican Party thought they were going to get, as you know, because Trump supposedly has more support in the black community. Every time one of these clowns comes out of the clown car, it destroys and poisons the well of so many voters that they're not going to get. But they can't help themselves. They're actually having meetings saying, please don't be racist. Please don't be sexist. Concentrate on her record. I mean, and the guy who's leading the conversation is a white Christian nationalist, fucking racist himself, Johnson, the Speaker of the House. And he's like, please don't be racist. Please don't be sexist, because we're going to get our ass kicked. But they just can't help it because it's who they are. And, you know, I think that people have become so desensitized that we've forgotten that when these people are trolling you that they care about inflation, they are being funded by the people who are most responsible for inflation, the corporate 500, the S&P 500, the people who took advantage of the crisis, who cried their crocodile tears, but said, get the fuck back to work. right? We don't care if it's safe. Get the fuck back to work, right? See, they're the people who took advantage by raising the price of everything. Now, those prices are beginning to come down, but it's only because they fed at the trough for years, and it's unsustainable. And also, it's a presidential election year, and there's all sorts of reasons why things start to go back to normal during that period of time. But their concern trolling is an inch thick, and below the surface, bubbling underneath it, is all this toxic racist sexist bullshit and all the fascism. And read their plans. They're open about when somebody tells you who they are, especially your enemies, fucking believe them. Believe them. Don't take our word for it. Read for yourself. They're open. They do this every presidential election. The Heritage Foundation, they had Project 2021, and God knows how many other incarnations of this. They've been at this for 50 years. And they actually, and if you don't think Trump is going to implement everything they say, look at the Supreme Court. They made up a list of everybody he should appoint to the Supreme Court, and he went down the list and checked off the boxes as far as he possibly could. So it's not some theoretical threat. It's the world we're living in now, and people need to become politically conscious. The working class has to learn how to think politically, and it's not like we don't have leaders within the working class who are beginning to break out of the bubble and are beginning to take on political questions. Eric shared with me. I'm going to share my screen so you can see it. Well, actually, first I'm going to show the motion that was put forward by 6 national unions calling for the ceasing of military aid to Israel. So I'm going to share that first. Let me just. Here it is. Okay. Let me try to make this bigger. Okay. Let's see. Okay, there we go. This is a statement by the Association of Flight Attendants, American Postal Workers Union, the International Union of Painters, the National Education Association, Service Employees International Union, SEIU, the United Auto Workers, and the United Electrical Workers. It says, President Biden, we publicly call on your administration to immediately halt military aid to Israel as part of the work to secure an immediate and permanent ceasefire in the war in Gaza. We all shared hope that the 3-part ceasefire proposal you outlined in the final week of May would bear fruit, allowing for the immediate end of violence and the safe return of hostages and the creation of space for a lasting peace as we write you today. However, neither Israel nor Hamas has accepted the agreement as proposed. That's not true. Hamas has accepted the agreement, but anyway. Prime Minister Netanyahu and his cabinet members have publicly refused key elements of the deal, despite your characterizing it as an Israeli proposal. As you said on May 31st, the Israeli response has devastated Hamas forces over the past 8 months, and that Hamas is no longer capable of carrying out another October 7th. Yet it is clear the Israeli government will continue to pursue its vicious response to the horrific attacks on October 7th until it is forced to stop. We believe that immediately cutting off U.S. military aid to the Israeli government is necessary to bring about a peaceful resolution of this conflict. Recent reports underscore the urgency of our demands. Large numbers of Palestinian civilians, many of them children, continue to be killed, reportedly often with U.S.-manufactured bombs. Rising tensions in the region threaten to ensnare even more innocent civilians in a wider war, and the humanitarian crisis deepens by the day, with famine, mass displacement, destruction of basic infrastructure, including schools and hospitals. We've spoken directly to leaders of Palestinian trade unions who told us heart-wrenching stories of the conditions faced by working people in Gaza. Furthermore, Israel's refusal to minimize civilian harm and its demonstrated restriction of U.S. humanitarian aid call for a halt to U.S. military aid under the Foreign Assistance Act and Armed Controls Export Act. Mr. President, the time to act decisively to end this war is now. Stopping U.S. military aid to Israel is the quickest and most sure way to do so. It is what U.S. law demands, and it will show you commitments to securing a lasting peace in the region. Okay, so let me get out of here. Okay. So that's one positive sign. I'm going to share my screen again to show another, which is some of the same unions calling for a general strike in the United States on May 1st, 2028, You can see the screen, Eric. You see the screen?
It's kind of small though.
All right. Well, I'm trying my best. It says AFT, American Federation of
It
Teachers.
kind of looks like your email account though.
No, it's on a website. It's on the website.
It's so small I can't see. But okay.
All right. Anyway, we'll put a link in the comments. But it says that it's from Common Dreams. The AFT signs on to the UAW's push for a 2028 general strike. It said that at the American Federation of Teachers annual conference in Houston on Wednesday, the AFT's 1.8 million members got a round of applause from one of the country's top union leaders, United Auto Workers President Sean Fain, who was called on the U.S. labor movement to join a nationwide strike in 2028. We want to create a mass movement, a general strike if we have to win our fair share, not just for workers here, but for working class people all over this globe, said Fain. You guys passed a resolution to push unions to do just that, and that's how we do this. When we fight, we win. People want to be a part of that. They want to join the movement. So I have my issues with Sean Fain related to the fact that he gave an endorsement to Biden despite his refusal to implement a ceasefire in Gaza and to cut off U.S. military aid. The time for the call that he's making now was then, and the time for showing strength was to withhold the endorsement, to extract concessions. I think he's beginning to learn something in that he has not endorsed Kamala Harris as yet. They haven't made that decision yet. And largely, it seems like they want to extract concessions over Gaza. They want to extract concessions over other trade union issues, over who she'll put on the Department of Labor and other positions in the government that directly affect trade union workers. And that's positive. That's a positive step in the right direction. But one thing that you can say about Sean Fain that you can't say about our own union leaders is that he thinks politically and that he knows that the only way we're going to get them to listen to us is to bring them to their knees. He knows that that the UAW alone can't win these battles, that it's our collective strength as the whole working class, as a national and international class that can bring the bosses to their knees and that can change the balance of forces. He just doesn't accept that, oh, well, the balance of forces are not on our side right now, so we just have to give mass concessions and just hope for the best. We just have to engage in joint press conferences with the bosses. You see Sean Fain and the UAW holding joint press conferences with GM, Ford, and these other bosses. He never does that, ever. And that's instructive. Just like with Trump and with this election, it's a battle for the soul of this country, of what kind of country we're going to be, whether we're going to have any kind of democratic rights, whether we're going to have any trade union rights, whether we're going to have any civil rights, whether we're going to let, power-drunk, white supremacist fascists control all the power in society. So this election is a referendum on what kind of country we're going to be. Well, in the same way, there's a referendum right now about what kind of trade union movement we're going to be, what kind of class we're going to be. Are we going to be a class that just takes blows and hopes for the best and looks out for ourselves and takes the example of our union, for example, which mocks other workers and laughs at them for their misfortune and says, ha ha ha, look at the teachers, they got screwed worse than us. Somebody who passes Tier 6 and attacks future generations of workers. That kind of self-hatred, that kind of weakness and passivity in the face of the stakes that we're all facing is waving a white flag of surrender and putting a target on our back. And we need many more unions to start taking the position that Fain is moving in the direction of. That doesn't mean that he's perfect. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have his own shortcomings. But the question is, what kind of trade union movement are we going to be? What kind of unions do we want to build before it's too late? And, the reason why Trump and MAGA are on the march is because they don't fear the working class, because they don't fear the consequences for what they do. And the normalization of Trump within the working class is not just our fault and those who've been sucked up into it, but it's also the fact that we have no leadership that points in any other direction. We have no leadership that's preparing us for the battles to come. We have no leadership that's educating us about where our real class interests lie. And they're not even doing the most basic thing to sketch out who our enemies are and what they have in store for us or prepare us for any of it. And that's a really dangerous place to be, because just because you have rights now doesn't mean they're going to exist forever. Tier 6 workers, before they got this job, they thought they were going to have pensions they could afford to retire on, right? They thought they were going to have all the perks and benefits that we fought for, that workers died for to win. And those don't exist anymore. And it's going to be a very long road to win those rights back. And if we start to lose our democratic rights, there's going to be no right that we have that the bosses will be required to respect at all. And that's the problem. So anyway, Eric, you want to wrap up? Because we're almost at an hour, and we try to keep this to about an hour. We've got 55.
Yeah. The AFT general strike is a very important message, and they're saying it is about creating a mass movement, and the general strike is the ideal weapon when it comes to reorganizing our society from a profits over people society to a pro-human dignity society. And basically their resolution is it's based in making sure that our local unions.
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Sorry. I had the video play. Sorry about that.
Okay. What their point is, everybody, is that the local unions should be directed by the membership to try to have our contracts expire on May 1st, 2028. Yeah. So if we're 2024, it seems like a lot of our unions are, I know in the transportation world, there's a whole lot of contracts that are being negotiated now or about to expire. Ours was extended a year, so it looks like the 2028 would be ideal. And what happens is when those contracts expire, generally that allows us to organize so-called legal, recognized strikes that aren't wildcat. But we won't get into all that. But
yeah,
the point is for everyone to start thinking about organizing our local unions in all the cities so that our contracts expire on May 1st, 2028. That is the most important part of this effort.
Yeah, we definitely got to bring as much pressure to bear. I mean, we know that these unions don't reflect the will of the membership, but we have to try to break down those walls in any way possible. We're going to be encouraging RTO members of the executive board to be raising a motion over Gaza. We're also going to be, putting pressure to try to build a united opposition in our union to begin to rip control of this union from the current boss-loving misleadership that we have. And we can never give up on making demands. Just as we criticize the union leadership for not making demands of the bosses, we must never give up in making demands even on the most rotten, boss-loving, bootlicking, subservient union leadership. We can never let their willingness to be lackeys for the bosses to lower the bar for what we are demanding. We demand what we need, not what they think, about what we think the bosses can afford. We don't give a good goddamn if they can afford it. This is a public service. They go find the money for us. they're going to find the money for us, or there'll be consequences for them. It's that simple. That's the kind of mentality we have to get into, or we're never going to be able to negotiate from a position of strength. And what Sean Fain and AFT are doing is setting out a marker a couple of years in advance to say this is what we should be doing, and this is how we bring them to their needs. Now, whether or not they go through with it is going to largely depend on how many unions rally to that cause and how much pressure is put on them to actually step up and organize that kind of fight. So in any case, we'll look forward to continuing in the comments and continuing the discussion. We're going to be back on a weekly basis, Friday at 7:30. And we look forward to continuing the discussion, learning from members' experiences. Thank you for all that have commented on the live stream. And we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Have a great night.